It's time, ladies and gentlemen. It is time. Terraria, Infernum, Calamity. Oh my god, I've been dying to do this for like, I don't know, a year. Something like that. And now the time is finally here. I'm excited. We're in. And it is brutal. Holy crap. What is it? For those of you who don't know, so Terraria, most of you know. If you don't, it was my S-tier super plus game of 2024, I think. It was by far the best game I played that year. It is the most ludicrous value for money you can get in video gaming. It goes on. It's an endless wealth of content. It's phenomenal. That's the base game. However, it's also got a tremendous modding scene and has done for years. And the game is still continuing to be supported by the actual developer as well. It's also so easy to mod. Oh, it's heaven. It's heaven. I came in here like an hour and a half early to mod the game because of the diabolical history we've had doing and dealing with some mods where it's like, you want this mod, right? And you install it, and then it's like, doesn't work. You actually also need to get these 4 other libraries that are all connected via this one. But that library also requires this library, and you end up downloading all these bits and pieces. This one has a Steam app called Tmod Loader. You go in there and it just adds it to the game, and then it says download mods, and it also automatically downloads any libraries that mod needs, and it just goes click. Do you want to use it? Yep. All right. Done. That's it. I did it in about 5 minutes. So let's talk about the modding we're going to be doing here. So Calamity itself is a mod. Adds a ridiculous amount of content to the game. Loads and loads of bosses. All kinds of stuff like that. Modifies all the... I believe Calamity adds a bunch of bosses, right? And then on top of that, we've added Infernum. Infernum is the difficulty that goes past extreme, essentially, right? For all wants and purposes, that's what it does. As far as I know, this is the most difficult version of the game and modifies a lot of the base bosses, including some of the Calamity ones, maybe not, to this next level. That means you're in for a wild ride. I wanted that because Terraria is not only the chillest, most hangout, Animal Crossing, build your own adventure game you can get, but then you add in real boss challenges and you've kind of got that perfect mix for me. That's why I love this game so much. Is like sometimes you're going to spend the whole day just kind of mining, farming stuff, exploring dungeons, finding new weird, wonderful things. And then other days you're going to be locked the hell in, dealing with some mega main pain in the butt boss and getting that thrill of boss kills that I really enjoy. So turning that up to 12 was a big plus for me. I will say, I don't know what we're in for later in the game, but there's a fair amount of people, including people on my team, who are like, this is just a bad idea. You're not going to be able to do it. You don't have the game knowledge or the experience to deal with what's coming later. This is really a mod for people who have 1,000, if not more, hours into the game and are now ready to go to the next level. My experience with Terraria is finishing the game on Master Mode blind. That's what we did in 2024, is like, I'd never seen the game, I didn't know anything about the bosses, and we did it blind. No chat, nothing like that, just fishing our way through the game. So, let's get into it. Started the game as normal. Now, first things first, get some sort of housing, built myself a little tent, and got to collecting the basics. The game starts out pretty much the same, right? But you are on Infernum mode, where things... and Calamity. Calamity adds a whole bunch of different biomes and enemies and all sorts of weird things. And so, started as normal, getting things built up. Have no real plan of like a class to be. That's a big thing in Terraria, is like, I want to be a ranger, I want to be a rogue, I want to be a magician, whatever it might be. I'm going to utilize whatever I feel's best for the bosses, and that was a good move, rather than locking myself into something, because it became very apparent there are bosses that way favor certain playstyles. I'm not tied into anything at all. And also, some of the mods we have are what I consider not cheating, quality of life stuff that cuts out some of the tedium. So, for example, when out mining, I can hold down control and just click the mining area. So if I find like a little copper vein, you know, it's like 20 blocks or whatever, it'll mine them all in one go. Saves you picking out the individual blocks. Right, it's just a tedium saver. And the other one that I've got, because we're going to be doing huge amounts of boss pulls at some of these later on, I expect to be in the more than 100 wipes on some of these bosses, is a potion vendor. Otherwise, we have to set up a lot of farms, we have to wait for like herbs to grow, and then we have to do a ton of fishing and all that kind of stuff, which is adding maybe 50, 60 hours to the game of just acquiring consumables. That's a little less fun in my eyes. So we're going to be utilizing that as well. All right. Anything else? We're not really touching. There's a lot of options here to mutate and do various things. The only other one I've added in, purely because it's just not my focus of this game, and I've dealt with it before, is I have stopped the corruption or the crimson spreading. We're on a crimson map. Because just over time, that just spreads and takes over other biomes. And the solution is you just cut a big hole around it. You just spend like a day making a big chasm between where this stuff is so it can't spread. That's it. I'm not interested in doing that. I did that last time, and eventually I just couldn't be bothered, and the corruption like spreads like 60% of the map or whatever. I just don't want to deal with that at all. It's not interesting to me. So we have a mod that just stops that spreading. Okay? That's the situation. So we got out there, and I'm not sure what we should aim for, right? I've got some general idea from our first playthrough, and this is kind of the fun part for me, is muddling through what we should do. So the basics are there. Let's go exploring and collect some stuff. Went down into, like, the basic forest area, collected some very basic things. The game does start you with a starter bag to get you going, and that contains the almighty squirrel. And at that squirrely tail do we fall to our knees and love him, because squirrel is God for the first hour of this game, because squirrel is a sentry. He will just stand there and he will hurl nuts at whatever's nearby, and he can't be killed. He's amazing, and he got me out of so much trouble. He was the hard carry for the first hour. Behold the squirrel in all his glory, for he is Jesus himself. I'm not joking. I started getting attacked by dragons, spitting acid across the screen, all sorts of stuff, and I was just hidden in a cave. I would have just had to dig my way out and not fight it, but Squirrel was able to DPS it and actually bring it down. Behold Squirrel was the hard carry. It became very apparent, though, that we weren't getting too much upgrades, so it was time to check the wiki. We have to do this, right? I want to be clear. I've done the blind playthrough. That's not what this is. And there are so many hundreds, and I mean hundreds of items that are added in the Calamity mod, that if you're not using the wiki to kind of know what stuff is there and even available, you're just going to be spending probably another 100 hours just exploring the game to find things, which is really fun, but not really stream conducive. So we have the wiki. Now, I was informed recently the wiki is way out of date. And that became pretty apparent. I decided I was melee to start off with. I love smoking things. I'm going to be melee. So my first goal was to get a burnt sienna sword, and that came from the desert. I remember the desert being a hellish nightmare, but because of Squirrel, in Squirrel we trust, it wasn't that bad. We explored the desert, and I had to farm these worms that came shuffling out the ground in order to get the sword. It's a rare drop from the sword. It did drop. I managed to get it to drop. It's the only one I've seen, and we've played, I think, now 14 hours. It's the only one I've seen, and I've been in the desert quite a lot. It was a shameful version of the sword. So every weapon also comes with modifiers, right? They can go from like unreal and godly all the way to just flat out garbage. I got a flat out garbage one, and it was still incredibly good. It's just called shameful. That's it. Shameful. So off we went, getting those things done. This is where it got really interesting, is I didn't know what armor to get. So the best I could find for my melee set was gold. And it kind of felt like we were getting to the point to fight the first boss, and I accidentally summoned one in the desert called the Desert Scourge, a giant worm, similar to the Eater of Worlds that I've faced. And this was going to be our first boss, I think, because it seemed to have the right amount of HP. So I built like a mock-up arena for this. Yeah, this is going to be our first war. This was the biggest introduction to Infernum you could have got, and Calamity, is the Desert Scourge, because they added a mechanic into this that was really tricky, and it basically highlighted what you needed, which was mobility. Mobility. So I had to go and flesh that out and get those things, right? But I was doing really well, like, especially with my summon, a little storm lion that was running around. I've been doing really well, and it took maybe 25 pulls to bring this down, but it was a definite welcome to how hard these bosses are. Technically, though, that was not the first boss. The first boss, apparently, was King Slime. So I was like, oh, well, we've already killed the Desert Scourge. King Slime shouldn't be that bad. I hate this boss. I mean, I hate this boss. And it's not because of King Slime. King Slime is a douche, because King Slime locks onto you and is incredibly fast for his size. He has a massive hitbox. And if you aren't really, really fast, and I mean like really high movement speed, he will catch you and he will stamp on you. That you do have a mini dash mode, but it's not great. You don't get a good dash till after you kill Eye of Cthulhu. But that wasn't the problem. This was where I decided to swap to range. Being melee here was not fun. Just trying to like stay on the edge of his hitbox just to occasionally hit him when he landed. And then he warps away and comes back. So I was like, okay, this is definitely a range-favored fight. So I went and farmed some Crimtane, the Crimson stuff, to build a bow. Because that on the wiki was one of the most recommended items. It's like, get this tendon bow. So I was like, all right, I'll go and do that. And it's trash. It is so bad. It's so bad. It was awful. The savior was to use Jester arrows, which actually had some travel speed to them. But that's not the problem. Yes, we have low damage. I'm aware of that. The actual problem was this ruby crystal that spawns. Because you have King Slime, and he's kind of fine. But this ruby is just the biggest pain in the ass ever. Such a pain in the ass. Why? It is a static fixed distance from the player. You can't get near it. There's no way. It has about 60% of the HP of the boss itself, which kind of points to you don't kill it. You could have killed the boss before you would kill this thing by the time it spawns. It spawns at about 60% of the boss HP. But its actual main attribute is it shoots a little laser. And that has crazy player tracking. Crazy player tracking. There's a sound effect that comes with it. That's like a build-up. That means it's locking onto you, and it's predicting where you're going to be. So I don't mean it's like looking at where you are and then it's going to shoot there. It is actively predicting your movement, where you will exactly be in the travel distance it takes this thing to be there. I assume that's why it's a static distance away from you, because it's going to target exactly where you're going to be by the time the laser reaches you. And it is ludicrously accurate. So the only way you can really avoid it is to wait for the noise and then dash in an opposite direction of where you are currently facing. You have to make sure you're not using any momentum currently and then move over. So if you stand still, hear the noise, right time, dash over, it will miss. But once King Slime's on top of you, that's when it becomes the problem. Because King Slime's going to force you to move as well, which means stopping and then baiting and then dashing. I could have solved this in a number of different ways than I actually did. Like a bigger arena, so I was more like vertical and moving around, giving just more axes to go away. But I actually felt, as much as some people were getting annoyed, I actually felt very comfortable with what we did, which was kind of stand and dash, stand and dash, stand and dash while shooting arrows into the thing. Because it was just consistent, patience, methodical. And also I put walls at the side, which meant King Slime would land on those. And that would give me a little respite to turn around and go back and do all those kind of things. So I felt very comfortable with what we're doing, although it's not an arena most people would have used. I actually found it to be fine for this fight. When it came to the actual kill, I've defeated King Slime. One thing I noticed is my summon, because my summon, when you summon something, and I had this little like ball thing that could hit stuff, the summon... you can tell it to lock onto that target. I just want you to attack that. But however, King Slime disappears and reappears, which means it loses that target. And then my summon constantly kept going back to the ruby, which is always around. And no matter how many times I refixated it, King Slime disappears so much, it would go back to doing that. And it's a long fight. Which meant that at one point, King Slime was away from me, and my summon had eventually taken this thing down into like 60% health, the ruby. So I was like, okay, I'm going to kill it. As I was killing it, and it was down to like 10% HP. The awful thought occurred to me. It's going to respawn. Like, they want this to be part of the fight, which is just cruel and unusual punishment. Because there's a phase 3. This is boss 1, by the way. It's the 3-phase fight. And phase 3 is this ninja appears that starts spraying the arena with these discs all over the place and makes it much harder to control the ruby. So, as I saw the ruby was nearly dying, I was like, oh, it was on half HP. I was like, okay, I'll kill the ruby. And then I can have the ninja on its own, which is not too bad. If the King Slime and the ninja is fine, King Slime, Ruby, and ninja is a problem. So I did kill Ruby, and it didn't respawn. I was like, oh shit, this is awesome. So then I like pop rage mode, which gives me a damage boost. I went straight into King Slime to kick his ass and start taking names, and the ninja appeared, and then the Ruby respawned. And I was just like, I have done so much useless damage in this fight. I want to die. Oh my god. But we did we did finish it off on that pull. Thank God. Thank God we did kill it on that pull. And really satisfying kill. Like, to have, like, boss 1 be a satisfying kill is just everything I want from this playthrough. This was really good. Which then meant we were on to something else, which was the Eye of Cthulhu. Which is obviously heavily modified in this version of the fight. It has it drops, like, bombs all over the arena. It creates walls. It can stick to you for a really long period of time. But by this time I'd explored a bit more and managed to find some essentially better loot, including I tried to flamethrower, and the flamethrower was significantly more damage than the bow. So the flamethrower was the hard carry here. Going hard on the Eye of Cthulhu was a big moment, because this is like when you've really got into the game, and you're strapped in once you've got the Eye of Cthulhu under control. And I'm glad to say it took less pulls, I think, than Desert Scourge and King Slime to kill the Eye of Cthulhu. That was great. But where do we go from there? At this point, I have uncovered a lot of stuff. A toxic ocean. A tech lab, which I don't know what that's for. We found a tech lab. We found an underground, like, Japanese garden. We found some really weird temples in the jungle. There's so much about this game I don't know what it does. Like, there's power cells, charging stations, holographic imageries. But we found a number of bosses. One was another underwater area that had a clam in it that keeps randomly appearing. And this clam is very odd. It takes very little damage, and it also fills the arena with laser beams. But I think I'm supposed to kill that now. I've never done the Crimson before, so there's 2 things we found in the Crimson. One was called the Perforators, which I'd like double the HP of the Eye of Cthulhu, so I don't think we're supposed to be fighting that yet. The other one was the Brain of Cthulhu, which I think we are killing next. I think that's my next goal, is to do the Brain of Cthulhu. So that's 3 more bosses. I think we've seen another boss as well. Oh, the Queen Bee. We found Queen Bee as well. Found Queen Bee, which is going to be, I assume, up there to do, but that'll be a heavily modified fight. Either way, we've got a long way to go. But the point was, finding and exploring after Eye of Cthulhu, we got some massive armor upgrades, and it's so satisfying. I managed to get something called Spirit Boots, I think they're called. It's the upgrade to Hermes Boots, which allow me a little bit of flight, more mobility. Amazing. Managed to craft this Viscan armor from the underwater, which was a huge armor upgrade. And then our next goal was to get a new weapon. So we went to the jungle and got a Blade of Grass, which is like a sword that swirls leaves and poisons enemies. So massive power increase. So my goal next is probably the Brain of Cthulhu, which I think will just generally unlock a higher tier of everything in the world and get stronger. And then probably look at Perforators and Clamboy. And then, I don't know. The blindness we're doing here, to clarify, is back and forth on game mechanics, totally fine. Absolutely fine with that. We've played the game before. Back and forth on some niche stuff is great. All bosses, though, no idea. Keeping that all blind. I have absolutely no idea what we're going to into, and I'm into it. All right? So I look forward to going on this journey with you guys. Bye, everybody.